What up, nerds? Welcome back to Bits Today, and this video will help you choose your first programming language when you're just starting out with programming. So let's get started. So before choosing a programming language, decide what exactly do you want to do with it. Because the most important thing is the concept. Once you have the concept in your mind, you can literally use any programming language for achieving that. But of course, every programming language has its pros and cons and specializes in a certain category of work. In this video, I'll be going through the most famous and popular programming languages and decide which one does better in which field and which one should you choose depending on what you want to do. So let's get started. I will start with what I believe is the best programming language for beginners. So number one is Python. Python is a general purpose language for doing basically anything you want. It has tons of functionalities in every field of coding. You can do tons of things with it. It is mostly used for AI and machine learning, but you can use it to make your daily life easier by automating your work. You can use it to automate stuff, you can use it to code games, you can use it to make the backend code for websites and apps. And there are tons of use for it. It's extremely simple, and the best thing about it, and the reason why I think it's the best for beginners, is because it is based more on the concept of programming rather than the hard functions. You don't need to learn all the hard functions and memorize them, because there are none. It is more relying on the concept of programming rather than the unnecessary complications. And once you get that concept right, you can basically learn any programming language like a piece of cake. So Python is a great way, if not the best way, to start your programming career. Now let's come to Java. Java is widely used for stuff like mobile app development, and it is very widely used and tons of companies use it. So if you're looking forward to get a job in this sector, you should definitely learn Java as your first language. It is quite complicated, not as easy as Python, but it is still worth learning it, since a lot of companies use Java as their language. Also, if you're looking forward to make mobile apps and going to app development, you should definitely learn Java. Massive corporations use it as their first language, so it's up to you. Since Java is out of the way, let's come to JavaScript, which might confuse beginners. Is JavaScript the script version of Java, or is Java the short version of Java? What? Let me tell you this. They have nothing in common. They are two completely different languages, and they just sound the same. It's like saying pea and peanut. They're completely different foods. I mean, probably not the best example, but you get the point. These are completely different programming languages and have nothing to do with each other. JavaScript is also an extremely simple language to learn, which is a necessity if you want to get into web development. So if you didn't know this, to get into web development, you have to learn two languages, HTML and CSS, which none of these two are programming languages, so I did not mention them in this video. But HTML is a markup language and CSS is a style sheet. So if you're looking forward to get into web development, you should learn HTML, CSS, and JavaScript. HTML for the basic elements of the website, CSS, you guessed it, styling the elements, and JavaScript is the code for interacting with the elements, the backend of the website. So if you want to get into web development, learn JavaScript. It's also extremely simple and very similar to Python. The functions are quite the same. You can learn JavaScript as your first language too if you only want to get into web development and such. Also, this doesn't have to be web development. You can do tons of other cool stuff with JavaScript. I remember making a calculator as my first project with JavaScript. Now let's talk about PHP. PHP is a very complex language that is used in making Facebook and tons of other websites. Facebook is the most popular one. It is very complex, very complicated, I would say. It's kind of hard, not friendly for beginners. If you are beginning, like your programming career, I would not recommend learning PHP. Learn something else first and then go to PHP. But if you want all that hard functionalities, tons of like stuff to do, very complex language, very wide variety of stuff to do in here, you should learn PHP. I mean, Mark Zuckerberg learned it and made Facebook with it. And look at him now. Look at him now. He's successful. Unlike me. Yeah, it's up to you. You can learn PHP or JavaScript to do web development. I would recommend learning JavaScript and HTML, CSS rather than PHP, because PHP is not friendly for beginners. Now let's talk about C#. Note, I did not learn C# yet, because it's kind of difficult. Not gonna lie. It is very complex, but it is used in every single like high-end stuff, like making softwares, making games, like computer game development and computer softwares. It's like very high level stuff, out of my league. Definitely not friendly for beginners. If you are a beginner, I would not recommend learning this unless you want to like hate programming. I tried to learn C#, I can't. And C# is like but again, it's extremely complex and powerful. So if you want all that complexity, all that, usefulness, high-end stuff, you should learn C#. Also, I think Unity uses C# in making games. So if you want to get into game development with Unity, you should definitely learn C#. Also, you can do tons of stuff with C#. I guess everything. You can do everything with C#. Because it's hard. If you want to do a lot of things with one programming language, it has to be hard. So again, wrapping it up, I would not recommend learning C# or PHP as your first language. You can learn Python or JavaScript. JavaScript if you are into web development, and Python if you just, more on the casual side of programming and just want to do tons of stuff with one programming language that is powerful and simple. But again, if you want to get a job in app development or such like similar fields, you want to get a job, learn Java, because Java is also pretty powerful. But if you want like get into higher end web development, you should learn PHP. And if you want to like the god of programming, you want to be like the god of programming and learn like the highest top-notch best programming language, like the hardest one, the most complex one, learn the C#. Learn C#. It's hard. Don't. So that's it for the video. Hope you enjoyed it. Thanks for staying with me. Keep slaying. Python is the best language ever. Don't tell anyone, but Python is the best, I swear.